So my name is Kimberly Meck. I am the Executive Director of Disability Empowerment Center, and I'd like to welcome you today to our Understanding Ableism event for August 2025. We're going to go over some housekeeping and accessibility information first before we move on. Sorry, I apologize. I just got a Teams message. So captions are available in Zoom. Click Show Subtitle in your Zoom menu bar to turn them on. We also have captions running, external captions running, and I will post that in chat. It allows you to enlarge the font and change the color and contrast of captioning. ASL interpreters are available today. We are presenting in gallery view, so the interpreters should always be visible. You do not need to pin them. Please know that we have 2 interpreters, so if you pin the current interpreter, it could prevent you from seeing the active interpreter after an interpreter change. You do not need to be on Zoom to access this event. We will read all questions out loud and voice any images on the screen so that content will be available to individuals calling in on the phone or who cannot see visual content. This event is being recorded, and we will answer questions periodically throughout the discussion. Please use the Q&A tab for any questions you have for the panelists. Please use the chat tab for any general conversation and comments. We will use both person with a disability and disabled person interchangeably, recognizing different people's preferences for person first or identity first language. And I will hand it off to Colin.
Okay. Hello, everyone. My name is Colin Wilford. My pronouns are he, they. I'm an AmeriCorps member serving at the Disability Empowerment Center as the AmeriCorps King County Disability Consortium Coordinator. And I'm a white dude with dark brown hair, a light blue polo with some grass weeds on it, with some Asian style blinds behind me, a TV to my left, and a door to my right. Let me orient everyone to this event. So, this is the 7th session of the 2025 season for our Understanding Ableism monthly series. These events are hosted by the King County Disability Consortium, which is composed of over 40 disability-serving organizations and individual disability advocates and activists. These Understanding Ableism events are led by the disability community, promoting disability justice within the King County enterprise. In this 7th episode of the Understanding Ableism Series 2025 season, we will be looking at what the disability community would like to see improved about the jobs that they work. One of the Americans with Disabilities Act's most important features is that it prohibits employers from discriminating against employees based on their disabilities. Regardless, there are still too many employers that either undermine or fire employees with disabilities based on what they assume people with disabilities can or cannot do. However, there are many significant ways in which workplace discrimination can be addressed that businesses can take. Each of the guest speakers on our panel today have seen just how favorable the workforce is towards employees without disabilities. This is because they're either an employee with a disability themselves, they have a family member with a disability, or they work closely with the disability community. Luckily, each of our guest speakers have ideas or solutions on how to make working in the United States more accessible and inclusive for people with disabilities. And the KCDC team invited them to pitch those ideas and solutions right here on this webinar. So, Kimberly, are you going to post the questions to the chat? Hey, Kimberly? Okay, I'll do it.
Sorry, Colin, I apologize. Sorry, please say that again. I had a phone
I
call.
was going to ask if you were going to post the questions into the chat
Oh,
because,
yes, I will. I apologize. Sorry about that, Colin.
oh yeah. Anyway, sorry for the inconvenience, everyone. Anyway, so yeah, um, uh, let's introduce the panelists. So I'm gonna ask each panelist to introduce themselves with their names, pronouns, a visual description, where they live, and what their connection is to this topic. We're gonna start off with Christina.
Hi, everybody. I am Christina. My pronouns are she, her. I am a white female. I've got dark brown hair. I'm wearing glasses. Uh, I think it's kind of a sea green sweater. My background is my office. I've got framed degrees behind me and the closet full of art supplies. Um, I was invited by Colin after he and I chatted a little bit about my experience both working for the Washington State DDA and being affected by the layoff process. Um, I am also a neurodivergent person, pretty significant ADHD, late in life diagnosis. So I have a lot of different perspective on both trying to navigate the workforce without the diagnosis and then trying to navigate the diagnosis after, or the workplace after getting the diagnosis. Um, I guess the only other thing that I wanted to mention is I have also started a business where my stakeholders are the community of disabled people, both invisible disabilities, physical disabilities, intellectual disabilities, and so on. So I'll stop there and hand it off to the next panelist.
Next up, we got Jean Boes.
Hello, everyone. My name is Gene Boes. My pronouns are he, him. I am a white male, older white male. I'm wearing a white t-shirt and glasses. And my background is actually a poster that hangs in one of the businesses at Northwest Center. It has historical figures that had a disability, but it's to illustrate the fact that it's all about able, not about disabled. I'm the CEO and president of Northwest Center. We work with the disability community. We're celebrating our 60th year this year of working to create the inclusive world we all deserve. We have about 1,000 employees at Northwest Center, and I have the great privilege to work for each of them. I like to think of them as inclusion ambassadors. So we have 1,000 inclusion ambassadors that are working to create, again, the inclusive world we all deserve. Probably more important for you to understand about me is I am the father of a child, an adult child with a significant disability. My daughter Tori is on the severe end of the autism spectrum. I'm also the spouse of a wife who has Parkinson's, someone who's grown into disability. And I'm the child of a father who had late onset multiple sclerosis. So I've had the opportunity to witness the world and how they treat people that they view as able and how they treat those very same people and devalue those very same people if they have a disability. So I really appreciate the opportunity to join the discussion today.
Thank you, Jean. And finally, we have Philip Bradford.
Good morning, everyone. I am Philip Bradford. I'm an independent living specialist at the Seattle office of the Disability Empowerment Center. I am an elder white male with brown hair, wearing my signature supervisor's purple button-up shirt, brown rimmed glasses, and again, I'm sitting in my office at the Seattle office of the DEC. I have been involved in supporting people in pursuit of their career path for 2 decades now. I spent 18 and a half years working at a vendor of DVR services in Pierce County. doing job training, development, and frontline job coaching. I spent 2 terms on the Washington State Rehabilitation Council, the Citizens Oversight for the Division of Vocational Rehabilitation, as the labor business liaison representative. So the need to have clear communication with both the workforce and the business community is very important to me. Outside of that, I spent well over 10 years advocating for the rights and opportunities for workers in the state of Washington in healthcare and frontline support related industries. Thanks.
Okay. Next slide, please. Question number 1. In terms of acquiring and maintaining jobs, what has worked well for you and what was your biggest challenge? We're going to go in the same order everyone introduced themselves in.
Hi, this is Christina. It's a 2-part question, and I do tend to read off my notes with my ADHD just to keep me kind of on track. So if you see me reading notes or anything like that, it's for all of our benefit, I promise. With regard to what's worked well for me, I tend to pick up on how to do a job very quickly, and as long as I am enjoying what I'm doing or challenged by what I'm doing, I work very hard and I hyper-focus well, completing tasks very quickly. And that seems to be accepted really well by employers. Some of the things that remain a challenge, and I would be open to anybody else's experiences and ways to combat this, but one of the things that I see as being a continued challenge is, for me personally, it's very important for me to understand the why I'm doing something, or behind why I'm doing something. So I've noticed that my tendency to ask why, or explaining my thought process in order for me to better adapt to how things are done, have been interpreted most frequently by people in leadership as being questioning of their authority, or being defensive, rather than just my attempt at seeking to understand. And I would say that that is something that, even when I've taken a step back and tried to explain, it's just part of my communication style. If you want me to continue to perform this task as well as you've said that I'm doing, I really need to understand the why. There's still a level of communication breakdown that has been really challenging.
You're great. Thanks, Christina. This is Gene. For me, it's again 2 parts. First, what's worked well in terms of acquiring and maintaining jobs. And for Northwest Center, just also anchoring on Northwest Center, we do many things cradle through career, but just focusing on the employment aspects of it. What's worked really well, I've been in this role for 8 years, and as part of that journey, what's worked really well is that our employment services team, and working with our clients, we don't seek carve-out work. So that's been something that's an approach that's been used in the past, where you would go to an employer as part of job development and ask them for all the work that no one else wants to do, and that then our clients would take that work on. And we've made a fundamental shift away from that in terms of honoring our clients and the meaningful work that they deserve. So we don't do carve-out work. We really focus on making a good match between ability and need. All of our clients have ability. All of our employers have needs. We want to make sure that our clients and their abilities match the need for the employer. So focusing on that secret sauce, if you will, of matchmaking has worked really well. Also, it's in terms of the approach with employers, helping prep the environment and prep the employer before we place a client has also been an important part of our journey. For me, the way I would describe it in the past, not attending to that meant that we were placing clients in environments that weren't appropriate for them, that they had to work so much harder to bring their best selves to work that's not what I would call meaningful employment and honoring the value that our clients bring. So we work with employers now to make sure their environments are worthy of our clients before we place them. So making sure that we're prepping those employers' environment, and that can be the physical accessibility, but more often than not, it's the culture and it's the mindset. And I want to go back to something that Colin mentioned when we first started, this idea that people make assumptions on what someone with a disability can or cannot do. And that's one of the biggest parts of the battle in that is that it's getting people to suspend disbelief and realize that everyone has ability. So that culture and mindset has been the biggest challenge. And it's something that we continually work on. And to be fair, it's not just with the employers and the employees of those environments. It's often with our clients. For me personally, one of the challenges I see is that our clients have been told no their whole life. They've been told you can't, you can't, you can't, when in fact they can. And so a lot of the challenge is working with our clients to help them understand that they do have ability and for them to suspend disbelief that they can do more than they might give themselves credit for, and to go on this journey of discovery to find out what they're able to do and what they like to do and what might be appropriate then to challenge them with in terms of meaningful employment.
Philip?
Thank you, Colin. My answer is also in multiple parts. I believe that being able to pre-plan the ability to maintain the job has to come alongside preparation for applying. Logistically, I have to know that I can get to work every day. I have uh, worked at job sites that were 2 blocks away from my home. I also, at one point, worked commuting each way 87 miles from a farm where I had my goats one summer. That lasted 3 months, but it made me painfully aware that I have to have reliable transportation and a mindset of self-reliance, that it was ultimately up to me to either be able to get myself where I was expected to be or to be able to contact the resources to get me there. And so if that means talking to a case manager, arranging for shuttle transportation, if that's something I'm eligible for, these things are important. Uh, in terms of acquiring, I haven't either worked on a job site that wasn't ADA compliant to the best of my observation, nor something that, and this is I think reflected a little bit off of Christina's remarks. Um, I have asked how this work benefits my community, even in small ways, ways that I can visualize, ways that are tangible enough so I can immediately feel that my best energies are going to a positive goal. My biggest challenge, I think, in work was a few times when I was simply doing what I was doing for gas money, primarily sales work. Even then, I found a way to drink the Kool-Aid, as they say, and motivate myself and make quotas and make convincing arguments for people to buy either a material thing or buy an idea. This also includes knowing that I have skills that aren't necessarily going to be in a job description, but are going to be beneficial. Years of theater experience, years of both speaking publicly and writing speeches, both for myself and other people, help me to learn to articulate and put across ideas that my employer is going to want to put across. Lastly, I believe in internal customer service, building the relationships with my coworkers and my employer involve my best effort on my side of how can I be helpful here today? How can I be useful? And I use the phrase, how can I be useful in my job with the DEC at least once a day?
Okay, next slide, please. Question number 2. What steps have you taken to make your workplace more accessible and inclusive, and what has been its impact so far?
Thanks, Colin. This is Christina. So in working for the DDA, the Washington State Developmental Disabilities Administration, I've become a lot more aware of what the RCWs, what the law, what ADA compliance means. So educating myself is one thing that I've done to help with the conversations I'm having about inclusivity and accessibility. The other side of that is, how do you deploy that information, or how do you make it effective? How do you share it? And one of the biggest steps, one of the things I'm most proud of for myself is I've put a lot of energy into leading conversations with curiosity rather than jumping to conclusions about people's intentions, whether that's with, conversations I'm having with my leadership or with coworkers. What that's done for me is that it's helped people's perception of me change from, well, Christina's a challenge and she's kind of a know-it-all and not really helpful and I don't really want to approach her, to Christina's a safe space to explore conflict and I don't really feel judged when I bring things to her, which I think helps facilitate the conversations. I think being aware of what the law is and being aware of how, as a disabled person or a person with a disability, and bringing all those skills that Jean was talking about. We all have skills and abilities that we're bringing to the table. We just need environments that help facilitate how we bring it to the table. And I think knowing the law and being able to remind coworkers who might be scared to advocate for themselves, and being a support person for that conversation, is kind of where I've participated in that. Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Christina. This is Gene again. For me, I think I'm going to play off something that you mentioned just towards the end there, Christina. This idea that employees can be scared. It's hard to ask and advocate for yourself in an environment that's not welcoming and friendly and inclusive. And for us, what have we done specifically at Northwest Center to make our workplace more accessible? It actually starts with safety and culture. So knowing that we have 1,000 employees and that they're in very different workspaces, if you will. We have therapists, we have early learning teachers, we have janitors, we have a print company, we have a commercial laundry, we have a logistics business. So each of those facilities are very different, but the common thread starts with that culture and that safety. So every employee needs to feel like they have a voice. They need to feel like it's a safe place where they can bring their concerns. And that is employees of all abilities, not just employees with disabilities. So you create that consistent culture, first of all, and that, our goal, Northwest Center, the vision for Northwest Center is to create an inclusive world by eliminating ableism. That's an incredibly aspirational goal. For us, we believe if we can do that, then the world will be as it should be. So part of that safety and that culture is making sure that every single employee at Northwest Center understands what they're part of. Whether you're a janitor or a therapist or a teacher or an accountant, you are part of trying to create an inclusive world, and you play a role, not just in the business or technical aspect of your position, but as part of that culture and part of contributing to making sure that we have an inclusive and welcoming environment. So first of all, it's the safety and the culture. The second piece is related to how we work with the disability community. We don't work for the disability community. We work with the disability community. And I think I've heard the phrase, nothing about us without us. It's that we can't create solutions or services without the disability community. They are the experts in this journey we're on. So being with is another important part of that culture and the environment that we create. And then lastly, with the physical accessibility, while I would love to say that all of our facilities are ADA compliant, quite frankly, buildings and environments aren't always ADA compliant. So some of our challenge is making even our own workplaces as accessible as they need to be from a physical perspective, whether it's elevators or doors and hallways of the right width, whether it's automated doors for the entry and for the bathrooms. So we continue to be on that journey. Again, it's not consistent because we're such a diverse organization, but that all is really important in the accessibility and the inclusion journey that we're on. So Philip, I'll hand it to you.
Thank you, Gene. I think part of this is job development that comes down to the applicant. And I am speaking from personal experience, researching a place that I feel I would want to get up and go to work to every day involves finding out what the reputation is for not only accommodations, but for welcoming people with disabilities and really making it an inclusive environment where workers have a reputation for respecting each other. There's a major grocery chain that I can think of that would be an example, and I'm not going to drop their names, but when a company goes out of the way to demonstrate their values by their daily practices, word does get around. And encouraging that is part of systemic advocacy. With my work as an independent living specialist, I do quite a bit of support on people who are rebooting their careers. And I'm currently working with literally people from age 18 to 81 in revamping cover letters, as well as rebuilding a resume that tells a work story. Employers, I feel, need to, as clearly and transparently as possible, make their accommodation story evident so that they don't lose out on people whose skills absolutely fit right into a niche where they are often desperately needed. I feel that being inclusive also includes not just accommodating immediately evident needs, but in my case, being a neurodivergent person, finding those ways where better communication styles between employers result in more effective and productive work. I'm in a wonderful office where I have a choice of recessed or amplified lighting, depending on the time of day. An hour and a half ago, there was amazing light coming from the east that would have totally wiped out my screen. You wouldn't be able to see me in this webinar. So we do little things to help with outside sound reduction, lighting. It's a stress management as well as an ability to focus that keeps us able to stick with our calendar and keep at our tasks every day. So in my current job, again, it's been a long time since I worked in a place that wasn't in the spirit of ADA compliance, even though there we're always a work in progress. And I think wanting and rather insisting that that's where I'm going to work is part of it. It's a goal commitment on the part of a applicant and an employer.
Next slide, please. Question number 3. How can individuals with disabilities be prepared for life in the workforce in advance?
This is Christina. I have 2 responses to this. The first would be a recommendation of when we're doing training for work environments to train work safe communication styles. There's a lot to that, and that's kind of loaded, and I understand and respect that, but all of the work we're doing to try to change a workforce still needs to happen. But in the meantime, we also still need to be employed, maintain employment, and if the communication style is the biggest barrier, we need to start practicing those things on our end to at least be aware of it. I might recommend, having an introduction ready, like practice on paper, have a script of this is my communication style. If I come across as X, that's not my intention. I'm open to feedback, or I'm not really open to feedback. Please talk to the supervisor. The supervisor and I are aware of things. Start that conversation off early so that 6 months in, you don't get kicked in the pants by complaints that you didn't know were an issue. That would be something else that would be recommended to employers. If somebody is open and honest about having a different communication style or having neurodivergence, instead of taking that as a liability, instead of interpreting that as something that's potentially bad, it's an opportunity for employers to start practicing protecting those employees and having those conversations with people who may be complaining about their communication style. Conversely, finding workplace environments, much like Phil has talked about on a number of occasions here in this webinar, that acknowledging that there are workplaces that actually they go beyond facilitating safe communication styles for whatever you bring to the table. So finding a work environment where your communication style is commonplace. There are employers who advertise themselves as being inclusive and happy homes for neurodivergent employees. And I would say if that's not something, or if that's something that's really important to you, focus on employers that are open about that. Regardless of what the intention of an employer is, it needs to be understood that there are unspoken communication rules within workplaces, and they're rarely obvious. Crossing these lines, though, can have really big consequences. And as the saying goes, once the words are out there, you can't put them back. So people have a hard time forgiving and forgetting about how they felt about things that were said that crossed those lines. So kind of reiterating the point of talking to your managers, your leadership, whoever you're working with about those communication styles very early on can be really helpful. Which leads me to my second point. I would say prepare for the workforce by building confidence in and support networks for self-advocacy. It is hard to know when you need help or what you might need help with or how you might need help. So it's really important to feel safe speaking up when you do recognize that you need help. And many work environments are not used to people who self-advocate or accommodating invisible disabilities. In some cases, even less invisible disabilities aren't easily accommodatable, according to them. So building relationships with people who will support your self-advocacy helps a lot. In my case, I've had a lot of friends and acquaintances help me navigate knowing what to speak up at work about versus what's maybe more appropriately left for conversations after work over like a glass of wine or some tea. And the final thing I'll say about this is it's really important that we start to speak more loudly with employers about this idea that ADA compliance is not the same as being inclusive. It's not the same as being fully accessible. ADA compliance is compliance. It's not accessibility. I think I'll leave it there. Go ahead, Jean.
Thanks, Christina. Really, really well said. I think for me, I want to amplify several things that you said. And the way I would talk about it is really in preparation for the workforce. Bringing back this concept of, for Northwest Center, the secret sauce is to match ability with need. And I would think that that's my counsel as for anyone that's preparing for the workforce, people of all abilities, not just people with disabilities, is to think about this, is that to do the homework on your employer. And I think we'll talk a little bit more about that in the Q&A. But as Philip recommended, do some homework on the employer and understand as much about their environment and their commitment as you can. And as you go through the interview process, remember that you're interviewing them just as much as they're interviewing you. I think for me personally, earlier on in my career, through the interview process, it was, for me at that point, it was all about selling myself. But as I've grown through the process, and I've done quite a bit of hiring through my career, it really is important to think about that as a two-way exercise, that you need to interview them as well and make sure that it's a good fit. And I think it's hard from the perspective that when any of us are seeking employment, there's a sense of urgency about finding the employment. But again, I would recommend be patient, make sure that you find the right fit for you. And if it's not the right fit, then move on to the next, to that next opportunity. So again, Christina, love what you had to share. Hopefully I've just kind of piled on a little bit with that, and let me hand it over to Philip now.
Wonderful, Gene. Thank you. I believe that, again, the mental preparation is just as important as the daily preparation to go to work. No matter what environment I end up choosing, and it needs to be, as you stated, interviewing an employer to make sure that this is a place I'm going to want to go and work at every day. I need to bring diligence. My best isn't going to be the best that I can bring every day, but to pull together what I can do sincerely, with the expectation that there's going to be sincere communication between myself and my colleagues. It's something that I stress a lot. Transparency is important. It's hardly the same as drama. If anything, I think it avoids drama and conflict when we're up front. And as a neurodivergent person, I really, really value direct needs expressed and questions raised as clearly as they can. Being sincere about, I really want to be in this environment. I've walked into basically clerical environments and warehouse environments as a younger worker with an open mind and fallen head over heels in love with the work itself. And some of this was working in isolation, some of it was working in the teams. But regardless, it's what's in front of me. Do I really get a kick out of doing this? And being an open person to getting that fulfillment. It's a vocational mindset, not just a career mindset. I think that there is inside of me some small voice that says, this is the work that you're meant to do right now. And I believe strongly that that's something to listen for throughout my entire work career, which is 50 years of punching a clock this year. I have no intention of retiring, as many of my friends and colleagues have heard countless times, because I still get a kick out of being useful every day.
All right. Finally, question number 4. What can businesses learn from your vision on how the workforce should be modified to account for people with disabilities who want to work?
Thanks, Colin. This is Christina. The biggest thing that I would reiterate here is reminding businesses again that ADA compliance is not the same as being accessible. The secondary piece is by building disability supportive frameworks, it supports the foundations of their workforce and benefits everyone. A lot of times you'll hear businesses kind of refute or deny accessibility requests because of the cost. It costs less money in the long run. It certainly costs less than a lawsuit. But, you know, again, ADA compliance is not the same as accessibility, and I think that businesses need to be reminded of that. Secondary, or I guess the third piece of that is that the people with disabilities need to be included in the conversations about accessibility in their workplace. What I might need for accessibility in my version of neurodivergence and what Philip might need could be vastly different. People sharing the same diagnosis doesn't mean that their accessibility needs are the same. You have to include the person in the conversation. And I think a lot of businesses try to skip that step. I don't have a clear reason as to why they want to skip that step, but it's really important to include the person and multiple individuals with multiple types of disabilities in those conversations when you're building those frameworks. Yeah, nothing for us without us. There's hashtags for a reason. I'll pass off to you, Gene.
Thanks, Christina. This is Gene again. For this one, I'll step it back a little bit from my answers before and really talk about it from a Northwest Center approach and how we think about it. And really, you touched on it. I'm gonna use different words than you did, Christina, but this idea of the business case, the return on inclusion, the return on investment, return on inclusion, why it's valuable for businesses. So for me and for the approach I take, as I'm approaching employers and organizations about why they need to be more inclusive, it's using language that they understand, because this has never been about charity or doing what's right. It's about doing what's best for their business, and that's language that they'll listen to. And so for me, that is how do we modify? It's not the physical modification as much as it is the mindset, is that you can get more out of your existing workforce, because the truth is there are people with disabilities in your workforce. You don't realize that they have a disability for all the reasons we talked about, that people don't want to be as open or are afraid of the stigma, etc. They work through it without using their voice to advocate for change so that they can bring their best self to work. So a lot of it's about changing the mindset and just making sure that businesses understand why it's important for them. That helps them set the stage for all the other changes that need to happen, whether they're physical changes, whether they're things like person-centered planning, which is words that I would use for what you were describing, Christina, is that no two employees are alike. No two employees of any ability are alike. So really taking that step back and looking at what needs to be done from an accommodation perspective. And I think you're spot on, Christina, when you say, a lot of the pushback that I hear too is that, well, the accommodations are too expensive. Well, actually, if you step back and look at, again, the return on inclusion, this work benefits an individual as part of their accommodation, which actually will pay for itself, but it also helps the rest of the employee base. So all boats rise when you create a better environment. So for me, that from our vision and what we want to create from a workforce perspective it's starting with that. It's starting with a mindset to help really create an environment where everyone can bring their best self to work. And then those challenges that we've been talking about through this webinar become easier to overcome. So thanks. And Philip, I'll hand off the baton to you.
Gene, thank you. Return on inclusion. I'm stealing that. I appreciate that. Look, if I'm fired up, ready to work, if I can in the interview process demonstrate that with accommodations and with some empathy on myself as a person coming to support your business, fling open the door. If we have some constants in place, that makes accommodations a lot easier. And one of the constants is understanding that there's already commitment to being here, to doing a job, to being open to the flexibility that a business is going to ask. And it's not reciprocity, it's really knowing that a business has to be able to clearly articulate what changes are going to be needed as business conditions evolve. From year to year, culture can change. Every time a fiscal year ends, culture in a business is going to change. There are going to be different goals. Aligning those business goals with the individual's interests can create personal business goals, which is a technique that we use here at the Disability Empowerment Center to make sure that everybody is engaged in work that truly interests them. And it's a way that we divide tasks, responsibilities, and make it it lights us up. Every week when we come in, we find out what the baseline is of what we need to do, check our calendars. And today's a good example. Colin checked in with me and I was really, really happy to leap in and share some of my own work story. So the modification, really Christina's right. The ADA, as I understand it, has stipulations that involve employer financial risk and being able to push back a little bit. So we have to find different ways inspired by the ADA to make sure that there's an environment where everybody feels that they can produce without getting stressed out and burned out. And it's always a work in progress, but stating that you're open and willing to do that on both sides, I think is the key to success.
All right, now we have some time for audience questions. So if you have a question, feel free to type it in the Q&A. We're going to start with some questions that are already in the chat. Starting with the first one, which I think is for Jean. How does a person work with the Northwest Center? Is there a charge for them? Do they need to have documentation of disability to receive assistance? Are there any other eligibility criteria?
Thanks, Colin. This is Gene, and thanks, Laura, for the question. There are a couple ways to work with Northwest Center. I'll start with our employment services. Our employment services work with the Division of Department of Developmental or Disability, DDA. I think they have a new name now, so I'm messing that one up. Apologies. But the Division of Vocational Rehabilitation is the other agency that we work closely with, and we have clients referred. So from a eligibility perspective, if you're eligible for services from either DDA or DVR, that can be your avenue into Northwest Center, into our core employment services group, and they will partner with you, onboard you, and partner with you there. We also have, I'll oversimplify this then, in that referral process, we also have private pay for people that aren't able to get services through DDA or DVR. Right now for DVR, for example, we're in order selection, which means that many people that should be getting services aren't because of funding shortfalls. So for us, we do have a private pay option for clients to come into our core employment services team. But what I'd want to emphasize just as importantly is that Northwest Center, we have about 1,000 employees. Nearly 400 have a declared disability. Those employees are Northwest Center employees. They're not clients that we work with to place an employment at other employers. They're our employees, and that's spread across the diverse roles that I started to describe before: janitorial, landscaping, therapists, teachers, accountants, IT professionals. So in our own divisions, we have a lot of opportunity for people of all abilities. That I would encourage you, if you see an opening, a job opening on our website in the careers section, to reach out to Northwest Center that way as well. Projecting for the future, we're certainly not where I want us to be in terms of the future. What the future that I want from a Northwest Center perspective is for us to have a staffing agency model within our own organization where anyone can come to Northwest Center. It's not about whether you have a referral from an agency. It's not about whether you qualify for services. It's about you seeking employment and working with us to get placed in employment. So in the future, there'll be more opportunities to engage with us, but right now, the two primary ones would be working with our core employment services, and then the second one would be looking at our career site and finding opportunities that align with your career aspirations.
Okay. Another question, also from Laura Drake. Philip mentioned researching how a company treats employees with disabilities. Are there tips for this? I am disabled myself, and while I am a decent researcher, I have struggled with trying to find out info like this. Only some of the people I assist disclose a disability, so I don't have as much time to research this topic ongoing.
I'll take this question. I have to delegate things that I can't handle in a certain amount of time, and one of them is researching where cool employers would be. A DVR vendor as a job developer, I think is a great resource. They've already got experience pounding the pavement on behalf of other DVR assigned clients. And so they're going to get an idea in their immediate community where to apply that won't end up in frustration. And I'm right now, just because my neurodivergent brain tends to visualize things as I talk, I'm thinking of a neighborhood in Seattle with a particular grocery store where both positive and negative results have happened as reported by one of those job developer vendors that I spoke with. And the solution that they came up with, looking basically down the street, and they got their client a job. And I provided support along the way, navigating the process, helping people prepare for interviews, reviewing skills and abilities and interests, and being able to talk about those in interviews. So keep your ear open and find the people who are able to devote their daytime hours to being able to listen to the community and find out where those places are. Some of them are restaurants, some of them are retail. The service industry is always looking for people who can work healthy, safe tasks and provide outstanding customer service. Finding out whether those skills and abilities are respected or whether they're just not valued, and if people feel like they're somewhat disposable, it's time to go someplace else, because increasingly we're finding employers who get who we are, and that we're pretty indispensable filling those needs. I hope that helps.
Thanks, Philip. If I could jump in really quickly just to pile on. This is Gene again. I know that it's time consuming to do, and then the question was about how do I do research about different employers. I think leveraging social media, LinkedIn is one of the primary ones I would think of, but using any social media to reach out to someone that's an employee of that organization. I think I find that people are willing to talk about their organizations and what they're experiencing. So even if it's in social media or an exchange that way, I think there are ways to find out from firsthand from employees that are in these organizations what the culture's like, and that'll give you a better sense if that's the type of arena that you want to be employed in.
All right. We're going to move on to the next audience question, which is from Britt Knuckles. What advice would you give to folks who do need a job as soon as possible? Many of the people I talk with disabilities, need a job immediately to pay rent. Is there any advice you can give people who might be applying to jobs that do not care about being accommodating?
This is Christina. So I am currently a case manager with the Developmental Disabilities Administration, the DDA, or DDCS as we're now known. I can't really speak in that, well, I can and I can't. Both housing and employment are really challenging in Washington State right now. The idea that social services are not emergency services is a talking point that I hear continuously. Individual case managers care very much about whether or not clients and our communities as a whole have a place to go, but there are not resources that I'm available, with the exception of if you already have social connections with a church organization or with social organizations who have vouchers to help in the interim while you're looking for a job. I am not aware of any programs specifically to help with interim bill pay unless it's through like a specific utility company. I know PSE has some emergency funds and things that if someone's having trouble paying the bill, they have waivers and things like that that can help cover. Seattle Housing Authority, King County Housing Authority have things like the HASP application that if someone's having trouble keeping up with rent, they may want to go into something that's like Section 8 housing. There's not a whole lot available, but with the HASP application, you would at least be prioritized. For parents of children with disabilities, the HASP application does not apply. It is for the person with disabilities. So you would have to be 18 or older to apply through the HASP application, as far as I'm aware. It's not a good answer. I don't have a readily available solution or resource to offer. I would say maybe this is a great opportunity for us to start leaning on some of our community supports, like church organizations or social organizations. The Arc of King County, I believe, recently just, the Arc of King County has a building that they just recently built with apartments above it that are specifically for people who qualify for their services and for DDA services. So it may be that the answer would be looking for HASP rather than HEN. I can see if I can find the resources and I'll try to drop it in the chat. But it's through the Housing Authority.
This is Philip again. My observation, a lot of work, especially entry level, tends to be offered sometimes with more hours than are actually offered on a week-to-week basis. And being able to rely on a full-time job at a living wage that reflects what rent and utilities are, there's a gap there and there's a chasm. I think part of that is making, for myself, again, lived experience, my own apartment, my own place that I'm solely in control of in terms of rent, a goal. I've had to have a room in a house with housemates to share the expenses while working towards what my personal goal is for housing. Uh, Winter is coming. Food, clothing, and shelter are the priority. And if I'm in a place that isn't going to result in hypothermia, to be blunt, I'm going to be able to make better choices for myself. So checking, it's I know an old solution, but if I've got a network of people that have a place, that have an opening, checking in with them, I may be able to do something for 6 months that I won't want to continue for a lifetime. But I want to reemphasize, just because I'm offered work doesn't mean it's going to result in a full-time pay. The SSI program is set up to allow for both benefits and part-time work. We are folks who help people navigate through those planning stages before they go committing to a job to make sure that they don't screw up their benefits. And we're always happy to help point out those guidelines.
Okay. We have another question in the Q&A, which is actually from my father, Eric Wilfred. What an awesome panel. Thank you all so much for your perspective. I'm wondering what you each think are the best ways to help prepare and support a direct manager of a new disabled employee, especially if that manager isn't used to disabled team members. I love the concept of return on inclusion for higher level leaders, but I wonder how that strategy applies to the person who works with employees day to day.
I'm going to toss out an answer. Spend enough time with your employee to find out their interests both inside the office and outside the office. For example, if my son had a reputation for being able to work incredibly well and in a determined environment in teams and be able to perform under pressure in front of 60,000 people, that would tell me that there's a level of determination that would probably be something to be valued and reinforced and thanked for and looked for while they're working. A new job is a confusing environment. It's set and setting, and to be able to help people get grounded in there and immediately get in touch with their skill set it can definitely be things that are outside the business world that are applicable to the work and to the communication skills that are needed in that job. So we're grateful that Colin's been a part of our office for many months now, and I think I just shared some of the.
Thanks, Philip. This is Gene. I'll pile on as well. I think for me, there's some principles we follow in Northwest Center. First, it's keep things simple. People with disabilities are honestly the first thing we start with new managers is that like treat them like they're the same as anyone else from the perspective they're fully realized human beings. They're don't make assumptions. Start suspend your disbelief and start that journey together, and then encourage an open dialogue. I think that talking with the employee and encouraging them to engage and to talk about their experience and their needs and their desires is really important. So I think that just again adding to what Philip said, a lot of it's just suspend disbelief and the fear of the unknown can be really really daunting. Don't make assumptions. Just know that you're both going in, you as the manager and them as the employer are going in to make this as the best experience possible both ways, and then having an open mind and being supportive of the culture you're trying to create.
This is Christina. If I can piggyback off of all of that, I'm basically just reiterating what Jean says, but with a little bit different language. Lots of managers have gone through lots of training on how to be a manager. One of the popular books to read is seven characteristics of highly successful people or something to that effect. One of the things on that list is seek to understand before you react. For managers who can't necessarily go into a full cohort of person-centered training right away, I would say that's definitely something to add to their list. But something to start with is lead with curiosity. Just like Jean said, don't make assumptions, ask questions. You may be a manager, but you're not an expert in that person. I have to say that to doctors all the time. You're an expert in being a physician, but you're not an expert in my body or my disability. It's me and my experiences that makes me the expert. So I need you to ask questions. And that's something that for me, when I have had really effective management or leadership, it's been because they're curious, because they take the time to ask questions and seek to understand before they react or before they implement discipline or any of that.
Okay. It doesn't look like there's any more audience questions. Kimberly, correct me if I'm wrong.
I don't see any, Colin. There's a couple of things going on in chat, but I don't believe there's any additional questions.
All right. So with little time left, we are going to move on. So as you can see, I have this QR code there, and also, yeah, so also the link to that is in the chat. But anyway, there's a comprehension and feedback survey for you to fill out that you could either access by scanning this QR code or by clicking on the link in the chat. It should take you about like 5 minutes.
Thanks, Colin. And this is Kimberly Mack again from Disability Empowerment Center. I wanted to take a quick moment to specifically thank Colin while you all are filling out this comprehension and feedback survey. Colin has been an amazing AmeriCorps participant with us for several months. He stuck with us through thick and thin and through federal government program shutdowns. And we were happy to have him back when everything got straightened out. Colin has done an amazing job with getting the Understanding Ableism series going. He's been responsible for finding all of the panelists, creating all the PowerPoints, and actually creating all of the run of show. Colin, I don't know what we would have done without you. You've given this program an amazing jumpstart, and he's planned for the next 3 months for us to continue these sessions. So
5 months.
5 months. So your work with us, Colin, has been 100% appreciated. Anybody that you go to work for could not get a better employee. So thank you very much for everything that you have done for us and for Disability Empowerment Center and the community as well. Much appreciated. We will miss you.
Aw, I'll miss you guys too.
So, with that, I want to thank everybody for joining us today. As a reminder, this event was recorded, and you can view the video later at Disability Empowerment Center's YouTube channel, which is going in chat in a moment. And our September webinar will be about the impact of Section 504, the ADA and Olmsted. It will take place on Tuesday, September 16th, which just happens to be my birthday. So thank you, everybody, and have a great rest of your day.